demand and the need of the hour is you have an architecture of multilateralism, an infrastructure of multilateralism and partnerships at various levels, and institutionalized interface with science and technology and the private sector. Without this kind of partnership and multilateralism, it will not be possible for us in the security and intelligence sector to discharge four basic fundamental functions of the counter-terror strategy. And these are intelligence and warning, prevention and deterrence, crisis and consequence management, and coordinated acquisition of equipment and technology and their application. All these have to flow from a very well thought out and comprehensive security strategy based on national security doctrine. Pardon my saying, I don't think this country has got a national security doctrine. Therefore, when we design such a doctrine, it has to be coherent, credible, and dynamic. And the strategy should be such that gives you a kind of a mobility and dynamism to have covert and overt actions and try to stay a few steps ahead of your adversaries. You need very effective state and central instruments to implement the strategy. You need to have the capability to prevent, deter, interdict, and destroy the sources of threat before they really materialize and cause the damage. You need to have a kind of a will to inflict maximum damage with a finesse on the infrastructure of terror, their logistic support, and the operational capability. And above all, this particular strategy or the doctrine would require an unflinching political resolve, a kind of a consensus, which Dr. Kalam mentioned about yesterday's bipartisanship on the passage of the Women's Bill. That kind of resolve you have to have, not only to follow the strategy, irrespective of the fact whoever is in power, and stay the course. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I beg to differ with Dr. Kalam. Let us not delude ourselves to thinking that terrorism will be vanquished entirely. We have to live with it. And when we live with it, we live with greater preparedness, greater commitment, and greater imagination. And really the success of politics or policies will be judged by the fact that people in an area or in a state or in a country are able to move about without much fear in their mind. The emphasis of politics and policies should not only be on prevention of terrorism as a kind of a main promoter of policy, but simultaneously emphasis should be on growth and development to meet the aspirations of the people and to assuage the anger and frustration that have been going in the basement of the societies faced with terror and violence. Therefore, you have to have a combination where politics and principle marry and where politics is pursued in a dispassionate manner to serve the people and meet the grievances wherever they exist. Terrorism is political. Insurgency is political. Left-wing extremism is political. And therefore, the solution has to be political. And the solution demands the presence and emergence of political leaders with vision and mass appeal, so that they are in a position to involve the people in the mission of reclaiming their future. It is not the change of regime or external forces that are going to bring about the change. The change is to be brought about by the people under the dynamic leadership of political healthsmen to reclaim the lost glory, to transform the world in which the societies exist. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, it is often said that God speaks in Arabic on Friday. God speaks in Hebrew on Saturday. God speaks in Latin on Sunday. But we all say that God speaks in Sanskrit and many other languages on all days in India and elsewhere. God makes no distinction on the basis of language, culture, tradition, and customs or traditions. God treats all as his children. God doesn't kill. God integrates. And the religion that divides and creates hatred is irreligious. The salvation of life lies in inclusiveness of differences and their celebration. That is the quintessence of religion. Let that quintessence be spread far and wide by one and all to create an understanding across cultures and promote greater peace and prosperity. With this hope, I thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing, and God bless and thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing with us such clarity on a completely new perspective to the issue. Thank you. I would now like to invite Commodore C. Uday Bhaskar. He is the current Director, National Maritime Foundation, New Delhi. He's also retired from the Indian Navy in early 2007 after serving for 37 years. He's concurrently contributing editor, South Asia Monitor, and a Reuters columnist. He was formerly associated with the Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, where he served first as a deputy director from 1996 to 2004, and later as director till late 2005.
Subsequently, he was appointed member, secretary of the GOI Task Force on Global Strategic Developments, a report submitted to the Prime Minister of India. He has edited books on nuclear and international security-related issues and has contributed over 60 research articles to journals in India and abroad. He's a guest lecturer at the Indian NDC and other military colleges. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, to share with us right now, Commodore C. Uday Bhaskar. Welcome, sir.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for what actually sounded like an obituary reference. These very detailed biographies, I think, are not desirable, but it'll fall off.